Hello, everybody. Welcome to Viewer Questions. Thanks for tuning in this week. 20,000 of you watched last week. That's pretty cool for a little old Viewer Questions episode. Thank you guys for hanging out. And by guys, I mean all of the human beings. I'm sorry if some of my language is antiquated. But this week I want to get into some things that still are not allowed to be covered at our Democratic presidential primary debates, that really topics that still can't be mentioned, can't be talked about. I also want to get into several things that have been talked about at the debates, much to our surprise. On Redacted tonight, this past week, I did play some of the worst clips from the debates, but this is different. This is different issues that I want to talk about and get into. Obviously, I'll be getting into viewer questions, hence the name of this fucking thing that we do every week. I'll be getting into that in a bit. And stick around to find out if you won the free download of my comedy special for leaving a comment last week. If you leave a comment this week, you could win next week. That might have involved some time travel. Or maybe not. Anyway, leave a comment. Join the discussion. And what else do I got going on here? Yeah, a lot of good questions coming up. Oh, Los Angeles and Ventura, California. I'm coming your way. Yes, coming back to the LA area. Those shows will be in mid-September, and you can grab your tickets at redactedtour.com or leecamp.com. And the Los Angeles one will definitely sell out because it's a small room, just having a little fun there. Eleanor Goldfield will be opening the show there with some music and spoken word. There might be a special guest on that show. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Also, he might not be able to show up, but there might be a special guest on that show. Los Angeles, and then the Ventura show, the opener is Graham Elwood. You know him from the Jimmy Dore show and from his own show on YouTube. So grab your tickets very soon. They might sell out. Los Angeles almost definitely will sell out. And that, again, is redactedtour.com or leecamp.com. And I'm coming to Madison, Milwaukee, I think, right? Yes, Madison, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, next week, not next week, in September, the following week in September. So yeah, you can also vote for your own city. There's also a bunch of other cities coming up. London is sold out. I'm excited about that. Thank you guys so much for coming out to see me in London in a few weeks. That'll be a fucking great time. All right, let's get into it. What's not allowed at the debates? Well, first I want to talk about some things that have been talked about at these presidential debates. And as you know, I don't really love getting into the presidential soap opera bullshit 3 years in advance. I know, it's just a year now, but still. I kind of try and tamp it down to some degree, but I think ideas are important, discussions are important, so I like to talk about that. That's what I really like getting into the best. That doesn't mean I won't partake in the other bullshit here and there, but I like talking about the issues. So here are some issues, and this is why this is important. These are some issues that have been covered in the Democratic debate, usually by the candidates that they're trying to force out, right? That the corporate media and our mainstream fucking outlets and our bullhorns for the State Department, and these are the candidates they don't want in there, but they have forced their way in. They're usually the ones bringing this shit up, okay? It's usually the Bernie Sanders and the Tulsi Gabbards and even Andrew Yang with universal basic income, which was something I was going to list here. Now, I don't know that he's doing it for the right reasons. What I've heard of him and what he stands for doesn't really impress me that much. But I like the idea of universal basic income, and people should talk about that. And it is a half step. It is a Band-Aid to try and keep unfettered capitalists going, but I think it would help so many millions of people instantly that's why I think it's important. I also think it helps people reprocess what society's about. Universal basic income maybe would help them realize society should pay back to you for being a part of this, for joining in on this, for us uniting in this. And as our labor is made obsolete by machines and technology, guess what? That money should come back to us. So, when they get rid of my fucking job for a robot with a mop on its head, then I can, he's got a joke book or something, and when they get that robot in here, Boston Dynamics, the joke-telling, fart bot or whatever, I should get some of that cash because he's pushed my job out. See what I'm saying? I think people need to start thinking about that. So that's why I like to talk about universal basic income, which has been, thanks to at least one candidate mentioned in the debates, prison industrial complex. That has become a topic in the debates. Tulsi Gabbard fucking destroyed Kamala Harris on her record on that front because she was a prosecutor helping to build our prison industrial complex, and we have the largest prison state in the world. Let that fucking sink in for a minute. And and why are these discussions being had? Why are they being talked about? Why are they getting into these debates that are run by fucking CNN and fucking MSNBC and Fox News? Why are they getting in there? They're getting in there because of activists, because of those of you out there who have stood up and demanded that our police brutality be talked about, prisons be talked about, the fact that we are the largest prison state. That is why these discussions are even being had. Now, I'm not going to run around and act like we've reformed the Democratic Party. Hey, they stand for the right things. No, these are the outside candidates that are fucking forcing this into discussion, but they're doing that. Their power, the energy underneath them comes from activists, comes from people at the bottom, comes from grassroots. So the people that have stood up and said, we are the largest prison state in the world, they are the ones that get the credit for why this is even on that debate stage. All right? Prison industrial complex, health care as a right, as a human right. Where do you think that energy has come from? It has come from so many people across this country demanding it, standing up and fighting for it. And it's not, nowadays it's not just Bernie Sanders' campaign talking about it, right? It's Elizabeth Warren and some of the others that are saying that healthcare is a human right. And then there's some bullshit corporate candidates up there, some of which I made fun of on Redacted tonight, who are like, I believe healthcare is a human right, and that's why we should let everyone buy into it. I don't think you understand what you just said. It's a human right. Let's make them pay for it, and if they can't pay for it, they're kind of fucked. So they're using the language to try and get you to not understand what they're really saying, but it's the discussion. It's people are thinking about it. People are starting to understand that in most other countries, healthcare is a fucking right to their society because you are a part of this country. You have helped it with your labor, with your life, with your consuming. I mean, sadly, but it's true. With your consuming, you go around, you buy shit. You guys, you keep our society afloat with your labor and your consuming and your day-to-day life. And so guess what? Part of what most countries give back to their people for being a part of it? Healthcare. Some of them give them an education all the way through college. There's countries out there, I can't remember the list, but there's several countries out there that give free college education to Americans. If you were to travel there, you'd get a free education. How fucked up is that? They give us free education. I think, at the end of the day, they may be like, hey, if we fucking make some of these Americans a little smarter, maybe they'll stop bombing us. So, they may have ulterior motives, but still, free college. All right, what other issues? Marijuana. How about the legalization of marijuana? Another thing Tulsi Gabbard fucking destroyed Kamala Harris on the other day in the debate. And Kamala Harris, and she was right. I saw the clip where she said that she did used to smoke marijuana. She laughed about it in a radio interview, and she goes, but that was years ago. I did inhale, though. But that was years ago. Meanwhile, she's a fucking prosecutor that put so many people in jail and made sure they stayed in jail for having marijuana. Anyway, why is that a discussion? Why is that being talked about? Because of fucking activists. Because of people becoming aware that it's insane to lock this many people up for smoking a fucking plant. Give me a break. Break it down to its root pieces. What do you really support? Do you really support locking someone in a cage because they had a plant to smoke? funny. I didn't see that same reaction when they were smoking tobacco. Oh, well, the plant makes you feel slightly different. It's slightly different. You can get high. I've seen people get high on tobacco. You kidding? You find someone who's never had tobacco and you give them 14 cigarettes, they're gonna be fucking high as a kite. All right? People get fucked up on tobacco too, if they haven't developed any tolerance or anything. So it's a slightly different plant. Well, okay, then never mind. Let's see, marijuana, climate change, that's finally in the goddamn national discussion. I mean, granted, the DNC is refusing to have a climate change debate. I discussed that on Redacted tonight. But, again, activists, people on the ground, grassroots, you and me, fucking getting angry about this shit, saying, hey, we're headed towards extinction. Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion about it. Yeah, it's a given now that the Democrats, even if they're not willing to have a climate change debate, they know they're going to be asked that question. They know on that stage they must have an answer for what they're going to do. I mean, some of them still don't. I made fun of Buttigieg the other day because his answer to climate change was, listen, we can't deal with climate change unless I get into office, and I'm going to get into office because I was in the military. That was literally his answer to what are you going to do about climate change? What? Could you imagine anybody answering any question like that? Hey, what are you going to do about Afghanistan? Well, we can't deal with Afghanistan until I'm in office, and I'm going to get there because I have nice hair. What? That's not an answer to the question. Hey, what are you going to do about prison industrial complex? Well, we can't deal with that unless I'm in office, and I'm going to get into office because I talk pretty. Me talk pretty? Me talk pretty sometimes? That's not a fucking answer. All right. Student loan forgiveness, also massive issue in these discussions, in these debates. I'm going to speed up a little here. Systemic racism finally being talked about. Even the discussion on reparations was had on that debate stage. All these things couldn't be happening without the spreading of information, of actual information, not of CNN information, not of bullshit propaganda information. Suddenly, the issues that people care about are much larger than what's allowed, generally speaking, on your corporate airwaves. And it's changing everything. Endless war, of course. Like, Americans don't support this bombing, support this endless war, and it's in these discussions. Like, there's no reason. We drop a bomb every 12 minutes. Every 12 minutes, lives are destroyed in our name, and it's hardly mentioned on your airwaves. How often do they show one of our bombs hitting? Huh? Practically never. By the way, I'm pointing at the TV that's over there, so I know you can't see that. I look like I'm just, look at clouds! No, there's a TV in front of me. All right. Okay, so here's a couple of things that, now granted, I don't watch all of the debates. I saw an hour of one and most of the other. So I can't say for certain these never came up, especially with Marianne Williamson on the stage. She brings up some interesting things. She got into systemic racism the other day. So there's something, this may have come up, but here's what I haven't, here's a few things off the top of my head I haven't heard still mentioned in these debates, despite the fact that there is a mass desire for them to be talked about. How about animal agriculture? The number one the number one Santa Claus of climate change. The number one cause of climate change emissions-wise is animal agriculture. And, if we were not going to talk about that as a whole, how about at least fucking factory farming? How about fucking torture farming that goes on across this country? I mean, this is one of the most important discussions to be had when it comes to climate change is animal agriculture, the endless meat intake of our country. And, there's some great documentaries out there about it, but not really talked about, still can't touch on it. Really no discussion. I mean, the agriculture industry, the meat industry owns our fucking airwaves, owns our government. They're as powerful as big oil. So while it's now become kind of acceptable to discuss big oil, it's not, for the meat thing, still fucking off the topic. I mean, off the table. Abolishing police, how about that discussion? Let's take it a step further than just police brutality, just whether they have a camera on to film themselves brutalizing someone. But and when I say abolishing police, I don't mean that there could never be any sort of enforcement mechanism in the country. But the police, as we now view it, where they're fucking everywhere, every block you go down, and they have every job in the world. If you guys saw my comedy special, the one I give away every week, I get into this in detail, and I recommend you check that out if you want a more nuanced 10 minutes on this topic. But our police are expected to do every job in the book. They're fucking giving out speeding tickets. They're telling people to pick up litter, don't loiter. Hey, why are you here? Oh, you're not the right skin color for this neighborhood. They're doing fucking, they're also running into a building when someone's fucking firing a gun, or they're supposed to. So they're doing fucking everything. How about we get rid of 90% of that? And if you want someone to tell someone to pick up litter, you have a litter guy. And he's the litter guy who walks around town. Hey, get your litter. And if you want a no loitering guy, you have a no loitering guy who doesn't have the ability to shoot people. Doesn't have fucking tasers and pepper spray and handcuffs and a fucking gun, all right? And he just walks around and says, hey, you can't loiter here. It says you can't hang out here. Why don't they do that? Because the cops are supposed to inject themselves into people's lives to, really incarcerate poor and communities of minority communities, and that's the job, is to upend these communities. And we don't look at it that way because we're told not to. We're told to couch it all differently, that it's dealing with crime. But, we're all committing crimes at some point. Have any of you ever walked down a street with an open beverage in a city where you're not supposed to? Have you ever broken the speed limit? Have you ever gone through a stop sign? Now, if you're in a community, usually a community of color, where there are endless cops everywhere, and they see you walking around with that beer can, now you're a criminal, right? Now you're arrested. Now you're put in the system. But do you honestly believe that people of color are walking around with more open beverages than white people? No! White people fucking love walking around with a beer. What the fuck's it? But we're not arrested for it, and this was covered in Matt Taibbi's book, The Divide, that in New York City, almost nobody nobody arrested for an open alcoholic beverage is ever white, basically. Something like below 4% of those arrests are white people, because it's used as an excuse to arrest people of color. Anyway, got too deep into that, but you get the point. Overhauling the election system, I could go off all day on how fucked up our election system is. That's not really discussed in the debates. Sure, there's a mention of voter suppression, and there's a few mentions of the fake Russia hoax bullshit that, MSNBC loves or whatever. And I've torn apart every goddamn day of my life. But there's not a mention of really changing our system, really getting rid of computer voting, really getting rid of the fucking black box machines that you can't see inside. You can't see the code, proprietary code owned by a fucking corporation, and we're deciding that. Let's just trust that. Let's just trust that some fucking corporation can tell us who was elected to every fucking level of our government. It's not just the presidency. It is. No other country does it this way. No other country has a system this fucked up. And it never really discussed on these debate stages. Well, maybe I missed it. If one of these candidates said, let's get rid of fucking computer voting, then please show it to me. I haven't seen it. Bernie Sanders, when he last ran, and the primary was rigged against him, I think we all know that now, in the first contest in Iowa, right? That's the first one. His campaign started to ask for a recount, said, this doesn't seem fair. And then they got the pressure from the DNC, who knows who it came from. But I've talked to people that were on that campaign that said they were pressured not to question the votes. And sure enough, after that one, never again a mention from the Bernie campaign of how fucking rigged our election system is and how much they were being forced out of a fair election. And of course, the DNC said in court, their lawyers said in court, hey, it's our right to rig the election. So anyway, I haven't seen that in the discussion up on that stage. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it was during one of the commercial breaks. Resource-based economy, of course, that's not going to be covered up there. A lot of the critiques of capitalism, although Bernie Sanders and maybe one or two others will occasionally say the word capitalism. I think it's just Bernie Sanders, but occasionally say the word capitalism, unfettered capitalism. You're not really going to get in depth about it. Okay, I've gone way over on that topic. So let's get to some of the questions here because I'm going overboard here. Comments, questions. Darius says, I've noticed that you don't wear brand name clothing. Would you be willing to share why and where you get your clothes? Yeah, well, thank you for noticing, Darius. People never care about the things I wear, how I look. No, I made and with maybe one exception. I think one time I maybe wore a T-shirt on the show with a brand name on it because I was feeling lazy or something. But in general, I decided, and I think college was maybe the last time that I wore a brand name shirt and thought I was proud to wear a brand name shirt. You know, some Adidas, I think it was Adidas things with stripes, and I was like, I got my cool Adidas shirt. And then as I started to look into our society, consumerism, what we value, why do we value it in this world, I realized, why the fuck? What does Adidas have to do with my life? What the fuck am I? Not to mention, when you're, let's start off with, I didn't want to be a sheep anymore, all right? That was maybe step one of this whole, growth. It was, I don't want to be a sheep. How many people proudly wearing Adidas stuff? Now, granted, I understand a lot of you may have an Adidas shirt, you don't really care and you throw it on. But there aren't that many people that are like, yeah, look at my fucking Adidas, at least not watching this video. There's plenty in America, but I just mean, of you all, if you stumbled into the world of Redacted tonight, probably not many of you are like, look at my fucking Adidas, yeah! So you probably get that part. I didn't want to be a sheep anymore, but it definitely went beyond that. I realized that a lot of these companies are using slave labor, child labor, and there's a million great examples of, from Nike to Banana Republic down the line, Gap, Old Navy. And so I actually used to do activism based on that, trying to reveal that. I filmed a few videos, I think called Pranktivism, where I went into stores and I bought like, a Gap t-shirt and one from the Disney store, I think, because Disney also had been caught using like basically slave labor, child labor. And I bought it and then I painted on it like, my fingers hurt. And then I put the shirts back on the shelves for people to find. So they'd be looking at their nice Nike or Disney shirt and they'd be like, oh, look at that. And they'd spin it around and it'd say, my fingers hurt, or send food, we need help. And actually, I did that before notes started appearing in fucking Walmart, like Halloween decorations. Someone opened them up and found a note from a worker in China that was like, we desperately need your help. So this predated that stuff, the reality of that actually happening, workers hiding notes in the fucking products. I'm passionate about that, but I also have come to the realization that it becomes very hard to like live a life and to do what I want to do the show and everything if I'm focusing on, every location that every piece of clothing comes from. So I don't know whether someone has seen me in one that piece of clothing was made by child labor. It's possible. I try and get stuff that's good. I try and get stuff at vintage stores and stuff. So you're kind of not the first one buying it. You're like, it's already out there. So I still do try, but I used to be very religious about, if that's the right word, about it had to be made in America and the right kind of brand. My shoes were made out of fucking car parts. I'm not even kidding. And then those ended up hurting my back a lot. So I was doing my best, but it ended up becoming like a fucking part-time job trying to find clothing that was pure and also I want to look a certain way. I know you guys in the comment section can probably put some links to stores that are very fully fair trade and everything, but I might not want to dress like a hippie farmer. Sorry, at times. No, I'm just saying that just because there is a store, and I know there are some online that are fully fair trade and fully perfect, That doesn't mean they have everything that I necessarily want to wear. But anyway, long story short, I do try and do somewhat of a good job on that. I am not perfect. I'm sure you can pinpoint some piece of clothing I'm wearing at whatever time that you look at this hypocrite. I think we're all hypocrites. I think I try and do the best I can. I think we're all hypocrites in one way or another. I've actually done whole stand-up bits, trying to think which album it was on. It was probably on a redacted stand-up comedy special that's on YouTube. But I've done whole bits on. I want there to be some hypocrisy. Let me rephrase. I don't want there to be hypocrisy. I understand that there is hypocrisy. And so if you take everybody and you make it an absolutist, like everything's got to be perfect that they do or I hate them, then there will be no one. You will be sitting in a cave somewhere going, I'm living the pure life. And, there will be no one left. So I understand there is some hypocrisy. In terms of the actual brand name, like showing up on the clothing, that's something that it's much easier for me to like fully cut out. Like I said, I think maybe one T-shirt in the entire history of Redacted had a brand name on it. And so, I won't buy anything that says it on it. If occasionally I'll have a piece of workout clothing and I'll like cut the brand name off of it. But in general, the reason I do that is because why the fuck do I need to advertise them? Why do I need to pressure people? I take the labels off of beer bottles if I'm on stage because I don't want to advertise. I'm trying my best to not advertise anybody, anywhere. It's not, they pay other celebrities, the regular celebrities, the actual mainstream celebrities, they pay them crazy amounts of money to advertise their brand names. So why would I or any of you wear something and advertise it for free? Fuck you. Fucking pay everyone. Pay the guy walking down the street who's got a fucking Nike shirt on. Send him a check if he's going to advertise your fucking Nike. So, and it's fun. I just realized this. It's funny that I'm saying this, and actually Obey is a brand name, right? They fucking sold out and, made it into a clothing. So you can buy Obey clothing, but that's so I'm not, here I am half advertised. I don't know if you can see the word, but this is made by Shepard Fairey. And so I like the art, and I don't have that many big pictures that I think this is like the only one I own. So maybe I need to buy a new one from a street artist or something. But like I said, I'm doing my best to avoid most advertising, most promotion. I thought that tiny little Obey word was small enough that you guys wouldn't really notice it. So, but here I am pointing it out. Fuck! God damn it, Lee! You outed me again. But anyway, like I said, I don't wear any of the clothing with anything fucking on it. And as for where I get my clothes, I don't know. I try and find them here and there, and I try and be good about 70% of the time. That's going to be the new motto of all my stuff. Just 70% of good guy. Most of the time. There's a solid portion of his life he tries to be a good person. All right, let's move on. Traced 1701. Thank you, Lee. Hoping to attend a taping, meaning a Redacted Night taping, while I'm in D.C. for Rage Against the War Machine in October. Yes, everybody look up, I think he or she has the name right, Rage Against the War Machine. It is in October. I'm going to start promoting it a little bit here and there. I haven't really gotten into that yet. But if you're anywhere near DC or can make it here, I think it's October 12th maybe, or maybe that whole weekend. But come on in, and I'm sure I will be around. That is my goal, to be here for it. It's Rage Against the War Machine being set up and promoted by Cindy Sheehan and many others. So look that up. Hopefully it'll keep getting bigger, and I'll keep trying to mention it. Trace 1701 says, until then, we'll keep fighting. Awesome. Matt Angiono says, why do you suppose so many people fail to link climate change to capitalism or industrial civilization in general? I hear people talk about doing something about climate change, but aren't willing to drive less, to fly less, or to go vegan. These are all absolute necessities in addition to widespread government action and completely reversing our economy. This is an insane task at hand. You express the emotion quite well on your show. Why do so few people see how fucked we are? I feel like these are two questions or two comments. One is about connecting it to industrial civilization and capitalism, which I try and do a fair amount when I talk about climate change and our impending extinction if we don't do anything. And the other is, why don't people kind of change in their day-to-day? Now, this relates back to the hypocrisy thing. As you all might have guessed, I have to fly in planes a fair amount to get to the cities that I perform at. I don't pogo stick to Los Angeles to do the show there. I don't love flying in planes. I don't own a car anymore. I haven't in years. I do try and take as much public transportation as time allows, like the metro here in DC. But it's impossible for a lot of people to do their jobs and not fly or not drive. And I do believe we all need to cut down. We need to cut down significantly. We need to cut down on our driving. We need to cut down on our flying. We need to cut down on our meat. But I believe absolutism, which is what I was saying earlier, absolutism breeds defeatism. So if you're going to say, now if being full-on vegan, 100%, nothing ever touched a meat or a butter or whatever, then if that works for you, then perfect. That's awesome. Do it. Fucking do it. But if you're also a person who's like, look, I'm not going to cut out meat 100%. My mom likes to cook it for the holidays, and I like to make her happy. I'm going to keep eating a little here and there, but I make sure it's, organic or whatever. And that's your thing. Then I say do that. That's awesome too. So I think that there should be levels, and I know there are plenty of vegans out there that disagree with me and maybe fucking hate me for it. But I think there should be levels, and I am a vegetarian, have been for many years, but I'm also not, I don't know what the term is. I'm not absolutist about it. I haven't eaten a bite of, like red meat or anything in fucking 15 years. So I'm kind of an absolutist about that. But I'm not, I don't ask if things are cooked in butter. I don't eat dairy, but if something at a restaurant's cooked in butter, I probably wouldn't know it or ask. So that's kind of how I live my life, and that's what worked for me, and it's worked for many years for me, and I feel like I'm doing it because of the way most meat is manufactured in this country, and now it's an added bonus that I'm also doing it because of climate change. But when I started, it had nothing to do with climate change. It had to do with the way we are producing this meat, which, most of it is horrific. And it's and I get that, and some people say, well, I have a farm it's all healthy meat and everything. I'm sure, I know that exists. I know it's out there. But for me, it was just like, if I'm going to go away with, take out 90% of all the meat I eat, then I'm going to make it 100%. So that's what I ended up doing in terms of, meat. But like I said, I don't ask what stuff's cooked in at restaurants and things like that. So I'm not an absolutist in that way. I feel like it would cause me to actually fail because if I started asking all of that stuff, it would make me so agitated and it would become such a big part of my life that I probably would give up, maybe not 100%, but I'd give up more because I'd be like, this is fucking too hard. Like I said, that's what works for me. I know some people in the comments section who are vegans are gonna fucking hate it. I'm sorry. But yeah, to your other point, Matt, I think people do need to connect it to capitalism. The profit motive is on continuing, short-term profit is on continuing to destroy the human race. And there's no long-term profit analysis in capitalism. The invisible hand of the free market does not give a fuck about 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 100 years down the road. It cares about this month and maybe this year. If you really sat that hand down and had a long discussion, its memory would go about a year, okay? That's what the invisible hand of the free market and would do. So there's no calculation as to our long-term survival when it comes to capitalism and industrialized society. So yeah, it's going to take a major change, and people have to start thinking about their lives differently, thinking about the plans they had for their future differently, and we all need to keep having these discussions and go far beyond discussions, obviously. It needs to be activism. It needs to be in the streets. I don't have the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm sorry. Wish I did. Wish I had a little pill right here. I was like, hey, this will make us all not go extinct. Just take this. But I don't. I don't fucking have that. Stephen Nodless. Lee, when you come to the UK, are you really going to go home? You just love the UK so much? Just because, he says, just because I wouldn't try to escape the U.S. regime by holding out in the Ecuadorian embassy. Yeah, seriously. Also, go to Greg's Bakery while you're here and get a few pasties and a sausage roll too. Yeah, I'm not getting a sausage roll because I fucking don't eat meat. But if they have fake meat sausage roll, then all right. Thanks, Stephen. Yes, I plan on coming back to America to continue the fight after I go to the UK for the London show. This next one's about our episode on or our segment on perseverance porn that Naomi Caravani did, where that's the term given to all these outlets that are now celebrating, like, oh, there's a homeless person and someone gave him a bagel. Yay! What a great guy! They're celebrating this fucked up situation, how fucked up our society is. The one we cover is that, or the Naomi covered is that a kid needed a wheelchair or a walker or something, and the people at Home Depot made him one and gave him a free walker because it was going to cost $20,000 or $10,000 or something for him to get it for his family to get it with their insurance. They'd have to pay out of pocket. Are you fucking insane? And the fucking media is celebrating this. Like, look at the nice Home Depot. God, what good employees. I bet they hug their mothers. What good people getting that kid a walker. No, it's fucked. It's fucking horrifying that there's a child in this country who needs a walker and it's not covered by the richest country in the world. Fuck you. So, Flash Flood Area 3. God, that's your name? I hope you're okay. If you need help, Blink SOS. Flash Flood Area? Flash Flood Area says, suffered through an ad for the military and one for Trump. Hope you got the damn ad dollars, redacted crew. That was painful. No, I do not get the ad dollars. I wish. No, those go to the owner of the YouTube channel, which is RT America. So yeah, they advertise, they allow ads on the YouTube channel. Then the YouTube algorithm decides what fucking ads, and I don't know how they decide. It could just be that we put Trump in our hashtags because we're tearing apart Trump or whatever, and they then go, Trump, this is for people that like Trump. And dumb algorithm gets it wrong and shows you an ad for Trump. So no, I don't get that money. Back when I had my own channel, Moment of Clarity. Actually, I still. By the way, important point. Go subscribe to my old channel, Lee Camp 2, Lee Camp and the number 2 on YouTube. Hit subscribe, and that way, if this channel gets deleted, you'll still be able to talk with me on that channel, and I'll still be able to make videos for you. So hit pause. Go to youtube.com/LeeCamp2 and hit subscribe and hit the little bell icon, and then you'll be subscribed to that one. We can keep chatting if this gets deleted or censored. But my point was, back when I was more active on that channel and I was doing Moment of Clarity, I actually refused ads. I did not have any YouTube ads. I did not get any YouTube money because I did not want to have an ad for Chevron or Trump or whatever before my videos. But when you join a TV network, just as... I mean, there are no ads really on RT America on the television, but if I were on another network, I would have no control or say over their ads. So it's similar with these. It's, YouTube algorithm puts an ad on there, and unfortunately, if I want to continue to have a TV show, that's the situation. But yeah, I do my best to not promote any of these corporations. We do make fun of a lot of ads. We used to do fake ads on Redacted Tonight until they basically became. It was too much work to, you got 30 seconds that takes several people a week to create, and we're a skeleton crew. We only have a few people here. So anyway, we don't do fake ads anymore, but they were a blast, and we made a lot of fun of corporations in those. Let's see. Last one. This is by Soul Conics about Boris Johnson. He wasn't voted in by the people. He was voted in by his own party. We did not choose him. He was forced on us. Talking about Boris Johnson, the number one name for a Russian penis, which was my joke from a previous Redacted Tonight. I know, Sol. I said that it was the Conservative Party, Tory Party members that voted him in, which is like less than 1% of the population, which was part of the point I made when I talked about Boris Johnson. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. Like, yeah, that's democracy. That's what passes for democracy in the UK. Whereas we have to rig our elections, they just don't even ask most of the people. 1%, less than 1%. It's like 0.2% or something of the UK population voted for Boris Johnson to be the new prime minister. It's fucking ridiculous. So anyway, great point, Sol. I hope I didn't give the wrong impression in my segment on Boris Johnson. The winners for this week are John LaMarca and Dean F. You get a free download of my comedy special, which is at LeeCampComedySpecial.com. But for the free one, you have to email LeeCampLedger@protonmail.com. You guys can also email your questions or comments there. And thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I'm coming to Los Angeles, Ventura, California. London is sold out. I'm also coming to Madison and Milwaukee in September. We're also adding shows in other cities for further months out. Hopefully Toronto coming out. We're still trying to work that out. Tape every week in Washington, D.C. It's free to come to the one in Washington, D.C., the Redacted Night taping. And all of that is at redactedtour.com or leecamp.com. And check out my podcast, Common Censored. Until next time, keep fighting.